Before we begin this morning prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. This morning, I won't pretend I'm not afraid. I won't wrap my thoughts in polished words or try to impress you with declarations I can't feel in my chest yet. I'll start with the truth. I'm nervous. I feel the tremble behind my ribs. I feel the 1,000 quiet questions that live beneath my skin. I feel the weight of possibility and the shadow of everything that could go wrong. I've learned to live with this fear like it's a familiar background noise. But today, I don't want to hide behind it. I want to move with it forward. Not because it left, but because I refuse to let it lead. My fear is real, but my faith is reaching. And even if it's small, it's still alive. And maybe that's enough for you to meet me in it. I'm learning that courage doesn't begin when fear disappears. It begins when I stop asking fear for permission. When I stop waiting to feel brave before I step. When I stop needing every answer before I say yes. So this morning, I'm not praying that you take away every uncertainty. I'm praying that you help me live free in the middle of it. That you help me step out while the fog still covers the path. That you hold my hand when all I can see is the next few feet. That you steady me not by showing me the finish line, but by anchoring me in your presence right here where I stand. Because this is where I decide. I will not let fear set my boundaries anymore. I will not let it dictate the size of my life. I will not let it tell me who I'm allowed to become. My heart was not made for retreat. It was made for trust. And even though I don't feel strong today, I choose to move in the direction of faith. Faith, not the shiny kind, not the loud kind, not the social media kind that looks like a highlight reel. I'm talking about the raw kind, the quiet, shaking, barely whispered kind. The kind of faith that holds its breath but still takes the step. The kind that doesn't have a map, just a memory of when you were faithful before. The kind that doesn't need to know what's next to believe you're already there. That's what I'm choosing today. Not confidence in outcomes, not trust in circumstances, but faith in you, the one who has never failed me, even when everything around me looked like failure. Help me recognize fear when it dresses itself up as logic, when it disguises itself as caution, when it speaks in a tone that sounds wise but is secretly trying to shrink my life. Help me hear the difference between your still small voice and the voice of fear that sounds familiar only because I've listened to it for so long. Help me tune back into the frequency of faith, the frequency that doesn't shout but stays steady. I don't want to amplify fear anymore by giving it my full attention. I want to shift my focus back to you, not because I figured everything out, but because I know you're still good even when I can't. Today, I want to live like I believe that goodness is still ahead, not just behind me in memories. I want to live like I expect redemption, like I expect restoration, like I expect mercy to meet me in the middle of this process. Not as a reward for getting everything right, but as a promise that you're walking this with me and you don't abandon people in progress. You don't shame them for fear, you invite them to look up. So I'm looking up, not out, not back, not at everyone else who seems more confident, but up at you, the one who calls me deeper, not because I'm fearless, but because you know what's waiting on the other side. I don't want to build a life designed around fear. I don't want to keep making decisions that make fear more comfortable. I don't want to keep choosing the path that looks safest instead of the one that leads me closer to purpose. I don't want to keep managing my life. I want to live it fully, honestly, freely.
Even if the freedom comes with shaking knees, even if I cry while walking.
Even if I fail and have to start again, I'd rather fail in faith than stay frozen in fear, because fear never gave me anything worth keeping, just regret. But faith gives birth to new beginnings. It opens doors, I didn't know existed. It builds something eternal inside me. It stretches me into someone I never would have met if I had stayed small. So God, I surrender this day to you, not in fear, but in trust. I surrender the outcomes, the results, the reactions of others, the timeline, the unknown. I lay it all at your feet and say, I trust you more than I trust my need for certainty. I trust you more than the comfort of control. I trust you more than the voice in my head that says, what if it all falls apart? Because here's the other question. What if it doesn't? What if something beautiful is already forming? What if the future isn't something I should fear, but something I'm being lovingly led into? Remind me today, God, that faith doesn't require me to know how it ends, only to know who holds the pen. And you do. You are the author, the shepherd, the steady hand that never pushes too hard, but always pulls me toward wholeness. So if I start to spiral, remind me. If I get overwhelmed, anchor me. If I hesitate, whisper again. I don't need you to shout. I just need you near, and I know you are. Today, let my first yes be to presence, not pressure. Let my first instinct be to breathe, not brace. Let my first action be trust, not overthinking. Let my heart lean into the truth that even when everything feels fragile, I am still safe in you. And safety in you is not the absence of risk. It's the presence of peace in the middle of the unknown. So I walk forward, not because I've silenced all my fears, but because I've fed my faith enough to walk alongside them and not let them drive. Let my faith be louder. Let it be the voice I answer. Let it be the posture I return to. Let it be the anchor that steadies me when fear tries to rise again. Let my faith be bigger than my fears, not because I forced it, but because you've been growing it quietly all along. God, I thought faith would make the path smoother. I didn't expect it to feel like this. This resistance, this friction, the sense that with every step I take forward, something pushes back harder. I thought if I said yes to you, things would align, and maybe they are, but not in the way I imagined. Because now that I've started walking by faith, it feels like everything is trying to make me turn around. Doors I thought would open have stayed closed. Support I expected never showed up. Timing I trusted feels delayed. And I won't lie to you, I'm tempted to question if I heard you right. Tempted to wonder if this was a mistake. Tempted to retrace my steps and go back to where things felt predictable, even if they weren't good. But here's what I know deep down. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because I'm facing resistance doesn't mean I'm off course. And just because I'm afraid doesn't mean you're absent. So this morning, I bring you all the tension, the quiet doubts I haven't spoken aloud, the irritation I feel when progress is slow, the questions I'm scared to name in case they sound like unbelief. I lay them before you, not as accusations, but as offerings. I trust you can handle my honesty. I trust you'd rather have a real heart than a rehearsed prayer. I'm learning that sometimes the enemy of my soul doesn't need to attack me loudly. All he has to do is make me tired. Tired enough to stop hoping. Tired enough to stop trying. Tired enough to say, maybe I was wrong to begin. But I refuse to let weariness steal what you've already planted in me. I may not feel the same fire I did when I began this journey, but faith isn't fire, it's root, and roots grow best in dark places. So if this season is darker, deeper, quieter, maybe you're doing something invisible that will later become unshakable. Remind me, God, that the path of faith isn't about constant affirmation. It's about consistency. About showing up to the path even when I don't feel carried. About choosing to believe even when I don't get the signs I used to depend on. Help me not confuse silence with absence. Help me trust that just because you're not speaking loudly doesn't mean you stopped guiding. Your quiet is not a withdrawal. Sometimes it's an invitation to walk from memory, not just emotion. So I look back, not to return, but to remember. I remember the last time I was unsure and you showed up. I remember the doors you opened that I didn't even knock on. I remember the peace you gave me when I had no plan. I remember the way you whispered truth when fear was screaming. I remember today I let memory become fuel. I let history become hope. I let my past encounters with you shape my present response to fear, because the God who met me then has not changed. And even though this season looks different, you are not different. Let my faith become a pattern of trust that doesn't collapse when conditions shift. Let it be more than just emotion. Let it be architecture, something I can stand on when the road gets narrow. Let it be weight-bearing. Let it be built from repetition, the choice to believe you every morning, again and again and again, because sometimes faith is a song, but sometimes it's just breath. Sometimes it's poetry, and sometimes it's posture. Sometimes it lifts me, and sometimes it holds me, and sometimes, like today, it's the only thing that keeps me from turning around. God, I'm asking for eyes that see beyond an hour, for perspective that stretches past this temporary discouragement, for the kind of internal vision that looks past what's not working and sees what's still unfolding. Remind me that the seeds you've planted in me don't sprout just because I demand them to. They grow on your time, not mine. They bloom through surrender, not striving. So today, I loosen my grip on the timeline, on the outcome, on my image, on control. I don't want a version of success that costs me peace. I want to be led, not driven, fed, not forced, anchored, not anxious. And if today's part of the path feels like wilderness, then help me remember that wilderness is not punishment, it's preparation. It's where you refine faith, where you detox my dependence on outcomes, where you stretch my soul's capacity for trust, where manna comes daily, not in advance, where I learn not just who you are, but who I am when I no longer perform. If that's the season I'm in, then teach me how to be faithful in it. Show me how to live here with peace instead of panic. Let my life be proof that faith isn't about ease, it's about presence. That I can walk through pressure and still carry peace. That I can face disappointment and still choose trust. That I can wrestle and still return to worship. That I can ask questions without losing connection. Let this be the kind of trust that grows deep, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be real. So today, even with obstacles in front of me, I choose again. I choose to believe that this story isn't off course, that detours aren't disasters, that you still write redemption into every chapter. I don't know how long this tension will last. I don't know what breakthrough looks like yet, but I know you, and that's enough. I'll keep walking, not because it's easy, not because I feel fearless, but because I've decided that fear no longer gets to vote. I'm moving with faith, even when faith feels like silence and trust looks like persistence. My heart may shake, but my steps are steady. My questions may rise, but my anchor is fixed. My faith may feel quiet, but it is not gone. It is here. It is growing. It is becoming more real than ever. God, something in me is changing, not loudly, not instantly, not even dramatically, but undeniably. I used to see faith as something I reached for in a moment of fear, something reactive, something to counter the panic. But now, it's slowly becoming the lens. Not a backup, but a beginning. Not the fire extinguisher I break glass to access, but the foundation I walk on before anything shakes. I'm realizing that faith isn't just what helps me survive fear. It's what starts to reorder how I see, what I expect, how I respond, what I believe is even possible. And because of that, I'm beginning to notice things. The storm hasn't stopped, but the story I tell myself inside of it has shifted. I still feel pressure, but I'm not defining the pressure as punishment. I still feel slow, but I don't assume delay means failure. I still hear the voice of fear, but I'm quicker now to recognize that not every voice deserves a seat at the table of my spirit. I can see the difference, and I didn't used to. That's you. That's your spirit, maturing something in me I didn't know needed time, didn't know was even happening. This morning, I want to thank you not just for delivering me from fear, but for showing me how to live while fear is still trying to make its case. Because I see it now. I see how fear narrates. I see how it tries to interpret reality for me, exaggerating threats, minimizing truth, twisting neutral moments into emotional landmines. I used to take those interpretations as gospel, but faith has changed my hearing. I know the difference now between your voice and the voice of fear. Yours is not anxious, not dramatic, not manipulative. Yours is calm, steady, clear, unforced. Peace doesn't shout, it's settled. So help me keep listening to the voice that builds, not the one that breaks. The voice that leads, not the one that bullies. The voice that speaks in alignment with my future, not in defense of my fears. And help me carry that voice into the way I speak to others too. Let my language be shaped by what I believe, not by what I'm afraid of. Let my conversations reflect a person who trusts in goodness, not just abstractly, but practically. Someone who expects that God is in the room. Someone who speaks from overflow, not panic, who doesn't need to fix everyone, control everything, or pre-defend every possible outcome. I want my words to carry evidence that I've been with you, that I'm not operating from reaction, but from renewal. Let my inner posture shape how I respond when plans shift, when things take longer, when people don't get me, when I'm left out, when I fail. Let my first instinct not be fear, not even self-protection, but clarity. The kind of clarity that doesn't depend on perfect timing or perfect understanding. The kind that says, God's still in this, so I don't have to panic. I want to become someone whose default is trust, not just someone who reaches for it in emergency. I want faith to become muscle memory. Because now I see the battlefield isn't just what's around me, it's what's within me. And when faith lives there, it changes the entire atmosphere of how I live. It changes what I expect when I walk into a room. It changes how I pray. It changes what I think I need to survive. I used to think I needed certainty, validation, control, safety. But more and more, I'm learning I need you, just your presence, just your rhythm, just your way. You're teaching me that faith doesn't need drama. It doesn't crave attention. It doesn't need a mountaintop moment to stay alive. It grows in the dailiness, in the choosing, in the conversations no one hears, in the quiet forgiveness, in the steady yes, in the refusal to rehearse my fears every morning like they're my script. Faith has become the new gravity, and everything in my life is beginning to orbit differently. God, keep maturing this in me. Don't let me settle for the kind of belief that only shows up in spiritual high points. Give me the kind of belief that walks into work carrying peace, that makes decisions slowly, with wisdom, not urgency, that doesn't assume the worst in people just because I've been hurt before, that doesn't shrink when opportunities scare me, that doesn't sabotage connection just to stay safe. Let this faith become lived, Not just in my language, in my rest, in how I treat my body, in how I spend my money, in how I wait, in how I listen. And when fear tries to sneak in through the side door, not with a roar, but with a whisper, help me catch it. Help me say, I've heard this voice before, but I don't follow it anymore. Let me stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios as if they prepare me for peace. Let me stop acting like I can worry my way into clarity. Let me stop consulting fear before I act. Let me stop waiting until I'm not scared to move. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not looking for permission. I've already been sent. Let my faith, God, be big enough to stretch into my thoughts, my reactions, my presence. Not because I need to prove anything, but because this is what you're building in me. A quiet, immovable trust that no circumstance can uproot. The kind of trust that doesn't make everything easy, but makes everything possible. Oh God, I can feel it now, how the things I believe are starting to shape the things I do. It's subtle, but real. I can sense it in the way I carry myself when no one's looking, in how I respond when I'm disappointed, in how I move slower instead of rushing to fix everything just to feel safe again. Faith is no longer something I whisper to calm my nerves. It's starting to feel like something I embody, not always perfectly, but noticeably. I don't react the way I used to. I don't spiral as easily. I don't default to self-protection every time I feel vulnerable. I still feel fear, but I don't let it set the tone. My instincts are being retrained, and that alone feels like a miracle. Because faith doesn't just change how I think, it changes what I allow. It reshapes what I tolerate in my life. It changes my posture in relationships. I no longer let fear convince me to say yes when my spirit is clearly saying no. I no longer remain silent to avoid tension. I no longer bend myself into shapes that feel safe but leave me empty. I've been choosing trust too long to keep choosing what keeps me small. Then this shift is painful sometimes because it's real. It costs me old habits. It costs me some comfort. It costs me approval from people who liked me better when I was uncertain. But faith doesn't ask me to perform. It invites me to live aligned. And alignment always means something changes. I used to wait to feel fearless before doing the thing. Now I know. Obedience comes first. Courage follows. Action precedes assurance. Peace flows in motion, not in stillness. So today I'm asking, give me the faith to act, to step into conversations that scare me, to make decisions that reflect where I'm going, not just where I've been, to protect my peace without apologizing for it, to hold boundaries that honor the calling you've placed on my life, to rest without guilt, to say yes when it's time and mean it, to say no when it's needed and not explain it endlessly just to make others more comfortable. Let my faith be seen in the way I move through conflict. Let it shape my tone, my timing, my ability to listen without absorbing what's not mine. Let it be seen in how I respond to misunderstanding, not by proving, but by standing. Let it be seen in how I show up at work, in how I speak about others when they're not around, in how I honor even the spaces that feel ordinary. Let my faith walk ahead of me. Let it get there first, so that what people meet in me is not performance, not pressure, but peace. Let me be someone who doesn't need to control to feel okay. Someone who trusts your timing enough to stop forcing my own. Someone who doesn't need to have all the answers in order to walk in integrity. Someone who lets grace set the pace, not anxiety. And if fear comes knocking today, let it find me too rooted to be moved. Let it find me doing the thing anyway. Let it find me showing up for what I said yes to, even if my knees are shaking. Let it find me choosing kindness, not because I'm trying to be liked, but because love is my foundation, Now, I don't need to react to every disruption. I don't need to prepare for every worst-case scenario. I don't need to have a script ready to defend my choices. I'm not performing faith anymore. I'm living it. And when faith shapes how I live, it inevitably disrupts some things. It shifts how others see me. It surprises people who thought I'd stay where I was. It unsettles patterns that were built on fear. And that's okay. I'm not here to soothe fear. I'm here to walk with you. And if walking with you means letting go of what once felt secure, then I release it. I release the version of me who was constantly trying to avoid risk. I release the patterns that once protected me that now keep me confined. I release the self I used to be, not with shame, but with gratitude. She got me here, but she can't take me further. Today, I want my hands to stay open, to receive, to bless, to release, to serve, to create. I want my feet to move with purpose, not pressure. I want my eyes to look for what's real, not what's flashy. I want my tongue to speak words that build, not just words that please. I want my presence to feel like peace, not because I've mastered everything, but because I'm no longer pretending. I'm moving with honesty now, with softness and conviction, with clarity and humility, with rest and responsibility. And that's the life faith is building in me. It's not always loud. It's not always bold. Sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's slow, but it's always real. And that's what I want more than anything, to be real before you, to not need polish, to not chase applause, to not shape my decisions based on who might misunderstand. I want to live in alignment with the truth you've written on my heart, even if no one claps, even if I'm the only one who sees it, because you see it, you see me, and that has to be enough. God, I used to think faith was only for the hard parts, something to reach for when nothing else worked, something to rescue me when I ran out of plans, and for a long time, that was enough. That was the beginning. You met me there, not with judgment, but with grace. You let faith be my lifeline. But now I see you're calling me into something deeper, something quieter, something steadier. You're teaching me that faith isn't just what saves me from drowning. It's what teaches me how to walk on water, not just in moments of crisis, but in everyday choices, in silence, in joy, in repetition, in simplicity. I've stopped waiting for fear to vanish before I move. I've stopped needing signs every time I step. I've stopped rehearsing all the ways things could go wrong just to justify staying small. I've stopped giving fear more airtime than truth. And none of that happened all at once. It was slow, holy, honest, hard. But here I am, and I know now faith doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it looks like stillness, like the quiet confidence of someone who no longer rushes, someone who doesn't flinch at uncertainty, someone who's learned how to sit with the unknown without making it an enemy. Let me live like that today. Let my faith be the way I breathe, not strained, not forced, not something I have to hype myself into, but natural, consistent, trustworthy. Let it shape my pace, my thoughts, my tone, my presence. Let it create space for others to breathe. I don't want to be the person who moves through life reacting to pressure. I want to be someone who moves from peace, from clarity, from trust, from that deep knowing that even if I don't have all the answers, I'm already held by the one who does. And yes, fear might still speak, but its voice is no longer louder than mine, no longer louder than yours, no longer the compass I follow. It might whisper, but it won't win. It might visit, but it doesn't get to live here. Because I've seen what you can do with the smallest bit of trust. I've seen what happens when I say yes, without all the details. I've seen how peace can stretch wider than panic, how presence can overpower pressure, how your grace doesn't just meet me in the lowest places. It lifts me, grows me, establishes me. So today, let my faith be evident, not in grand displays, but in how I show up when nothing extraordinary is happening. Let it be visible in how I listen, how I wait, how I let go, how I don't need control to feel safe anymore. Let it be clear in how I love those who are hard to love, in how I show up when it's inconvenient, in how I forgive when bitterness would feel more satisfying, in how I rest without guilt, in how I speak to myself when no one's around to hear. Let my faith be woven into my normal, let it color everything. I don't need to live in extremes anymore. I don't need a mountain or a meltdown to feel close to you. I can meet you in this quiet kitchen, this simple breath, this ordinary Monday. You are here. And that is enough. I'm not chasing breakthrough to prove you're real. I'm not begging for a miracle just to remember you love me. I've walked long enough with you now to recognize that sometimes the biggest miracle is a peaceful heart that no longer needs proof, just presence. And when things go wrong, because they might, I won't spiral like I used to. I won't build panic stories in my head. I won't scramble for control. I'll breathe. I'll return to what I know. I'll ask you what you see. I'll wait until your truth is louder than my fear. I'll remind myself that I've already lived through days I thought I wouldn't survive, that I've already come further than I once believed possible, that faith isn't something I perform, it's something I protect, something I nurture, something I carry, and something that carries me. Let my whole life become a response to this kind of trust. Let my every day reflect the peace that fear tried to steal. Let my story be one of a soul that learned to stop running from the dark, because she learned who lit the flame inside her. I am no longer waiting to be fearless. I am walking by faith, with trembling hands, with open eyes, with a heart that's still learning, but no longer hiding. Amen.